Supreme Court already rejected this approach on the 14th Amendment. And it's a continuation of this issue. We're extremely worried, and we're going to keep organizing to say no, moving in this direction. One final point on this issue of citizenship: the historical element and the historical symbolism of what the 14th Amendment means after slavery, after the Civil War, after everything that has happened in the nation fighting to have a better and more inclusive democracy. So it's unacceptable to go back to this space of exclusion that Donald Trump is trying to achieve.
Welcome to Disunited States, our special segment where we take a look at all things USA ahead of the upcoming midterm elections. And this week we're looking at legal action being taken against President Trump's push to ban birthright citizenship. Welcome Ilya Somin, law professor at George Mason University in constitutional law, specialising in migration rights. Welcome to you, Professor Somin. Could you just explain very briefly, there's birthright citizenship, there's birth tourism, both have been an issue. Just explain them briefly.
Sure. So birthright citizenship is an institution that we actually inherited from Britain, under which, with rare exceptions, every child born in the United States is entitled to U.S. citizenship. Last year, Trump issued an executive order where he claimed that birthright citizenship could be denied to children of illegal migrants and those here on temporary visas. But the Supreme Court, in a decision in June, ruled against him and said his action was unconstitutional. I think the court was right about that. But he has now come back with a new executive order where he's trying to take away birthright citizenship from narrower categories of people, including employees of foreign governments and international organizations, that is, their children, if they're born in the United States, so-called children born because of so-called birth tourism, and a couple other categories that we can talk about if you're interested. I think this new executive order, it is also at odds with the Constitution and with the Supreme Court's decision that was issued in June, and therefore, hopefully, the legal challenges which are being filed against it will succeed.
You think they will, or does Donald Trump and his team have any legal standing in this?
Not with respect to most of the people covered by this new order. What the Constitution says in the 14th Amendment is that any child born in the U.S. is entitled to birthright citizenship so long as they're, quote, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And in plain English, that simply means so long as their parents are subject to American law. And that's true for almost all the people covered by his new order, with the exception of children of diplomats who have diplomatic immunity and therefore they're not subject to U.S. law. But those people are already denied birthright citizenship under current law. The children of birth tourists or of employees of international organizations who don't have diplomatic immunity, or of a group of people that he labels alien enemies, all of these people, if they're on U.S. soil, they're subject to American law. They can be prosecuted for crimes or sued for civil offenses, and therefore this order by Trump is illegal with respect to probably 99% of the people that it applies to, and therefore hopefully courts will rule against it, just like they did with his previous order.
What is the ultimate aim then of Donald Trump when it comes to this, and how much support does he have among the American electorate with the midterms approaching?
Sure. So the question of what his aim is more of a question for him than for me, but I will say that this is part of the general anti-immigrant nature of this administration, which wants to reduce immigration, is highly bigoted about immigrants, and in general pursues all sorts of harmful, unjust, and often illegal policies in this area. As for how much support he has, we may see in the midterm elections, but polls say he is extremely unpopular, and many of his immigration policies, including those on birthright citizenship, are also unpopular. That doesn't by itself prove that they're bad, but in fact they are awful, and many of them are illegal as well.
Professor Ilya Somin, thank you very much. And listening to that, Hector Sanchez Barba, President and CEO of Familia, Vota, a non-profit advocating for Latino voices to be heard in politics and to advance Latino voter rights. Hector Sanchez Barba, what were your initial thoughts when you heard about President President Trump's push to ban birthright citizenship and the fact that these two new executive orders have been issued?
Thank you for the invitation. I agree with the professor on the legal front and the analysis on the Supreme Court. But I want to take this a step further in terms of what it means in the context of Donald Trump and his administration. This has been one of the most anti-immigrant administrations in the history of the nation. Donald Trump has put immigration at the center of his agenda with an anti-immigrant approach. On the Republican convention, they had signs saying mass deportation now. And it has been a major distraction from the real issues that are affecting our economy, that are affecting people, etc. But mostly it's affecting immigrants and our community in a very serious way. Hate crimes under this administration and during Donald Trump have increased 250%. And now he's coming back with the issue of birthright citizenship. As the professors highlighted, the Supreme Court already rejected this approach on the 14th Amendment. And it's a continuation of this issue. We're extremely worried, and we're going to keep organizing to say no, moving in this direction. One final point on this issue of citizenship: the historical element and the historical symbolism of what the 14th Amendment means after slavery, after the Civil War, after everything that has happened in the nation fighting to have a better and more inclusive democracy. So it's unacceptable to go back to this space of exclusion that Donald Trump is trying to achieve.
Do you get any sense that Donald Trump is thinking about the effect on the Latino community? I mean, he did owe his presidency to a large uptick in votes from Latinos. Has that completely abandoned him now?
There has been a big movement against Donald Trump in the last 2 years, and it's very clear it's at some of the lowest numbers that we have seen. There is a lot of concern in the community, not only in the Latino community, but in the nation. The way he has been terrorizing everybody in the nation via ICE, literally killing people all over the nation, is extremely worrisome. There are a lot of concerns in the nation with Donald Trump, with his administration, with the MAGA movement. And also when we look at the economy, very serious concerns on inflation, on the instability that we have seen, not only here, but in the world. Donald Trump is one of the most unstable voices that we have in the world at this moment, and it's extremely worrisome. And the domestic approach is very clear. We're doing everything in our capacity to make sure that we change extremism in the nation.
And Hector, as an immigrant yourself and one of the nation's leading civic engagement advocates, are you and your close family worried about what might happen if this citizenship practice is allowed to go through and the legal action against it fails?
It's a very serious issue. There are millions of mixed status families. This nation depends heavily on undocumented workers. 11 million undocumented workers in the most powerful nation of the planet is not a mistake, it's public policy. And everybody in this nation benefits from the hard work of immigrants. But addressing your question specifically, people are living in fear. We know of people that are not going to school. The children are not going to school. People are asking their neighbors to buy their groceries. They just go to work and come back home. That is affecting seriously undocumented people, but it's affecting everybody that may look Mexican, that may look Latino because of the racial profiling. We have seen those horrible images of ICE going to rooftops after people working in construction, people going to the supermarkets. It's making it really hard for people just to have a normal, decent life.
Hector Sanchez Barba, thank you so much for talking to us this afternoon, helping us understand a little bit more about what's going on with that policy in the United States. Hector Sanchez Barba is President and CEO of Familia, Vota.